Hey everybody, welcome to Trading Capital. It is May 6th. We're wrapping up the trading week here on this lovely Friday. Jumping right into natural gas. We have certainly been patient, but this is the exact sell-off we were anticipating that was nearing the brink of a potential cycle top. I firmly think here we have hit what we can now call an interim cycle top in natural gas. And the type of reversal that we saw today is certainly very, very powerful, and we will dissect it on multiple different time frames. But this technical reversal, as we were telling in previous videos, you were starting to have these major broadening formations form, as you can see here by these two red lines. We've had three of these broadening formations, each on a bigger basis than this one over here. So when you have that many of bearish patterns inside of an overbought scenario, inside of a fundamentally reserve building season, the odds of a pullback, when you think about logically, after natural gas has run what's pretty much a near identical cycle to the greatest rally in natural gas history in the 1999 to 2000 rally, then it's a logical assumption that it's due for some sort of major correction. Now, you obviously do have to keep in mind the bullish factors that are at the tailwind of natural gas, but it's certainly, you have to think of it as, what is this asset supposed to be priced at? And the fundamentals that have kicked in and added an extra boost and just really proving the technicals. And this is why I love the technicals, because the technicals are screaming an overbought condition. If we flip to the daily chart, you can see that we were talking about this channel, this cycle channel that you've been trading in for several years, where you hit your pivot high, your major pivot low, kissed it, and now this is your midpoint consolidation in the cycle, and now you've hit it to a T. And let's just erase these lines here so we can see it with a better clarity. Look at that. You've almost hit the top of that channel. You've came into this triple resistance, 1 pivot, 2 pivot, 3 pivots. And what I want to draw to your attention is, I'm going to go over the technicals first, and then we're going to back it up with some of the fundamentals. So doing that dual analysis is always critical to having the best understanding. But I am foremost a chartist first. I trust the technicals more than the fundamentals in many cases, because the short-term picture where I benefit more as a swing trader is definitely run by emotion and technicals and price actions. So fundamentals support more of the longer term macro, and the technicals kind of support the shorter term in more accurate form, but as well as the long term picture. But analyzing this pullback, so look at this massive sell-off. It was relentless all day, selling, but it was more of a controlled selling pressure. Like, I've witnessed some sell-offs in natural gas that are fierce. You just dump out very, very quickly. And this was just a controlled bleed all day long. Just every little, technical area where there's a couple gaps on the charts, intraday gaps, people thought they would maybe get some sort of a bounce. There was no bounce. Absolutely not. But what's critical about this is, firstly, you've engulfed this candle. So this is what's called a bearish engulfing. You're at the high of the pattern, you're into resistance, and now you've engulfed this candle completely, because you went higher, and then you pushed all of a sudden lower, closed below where the other previous low was, and you actually engulfed the whole wick as well. So, and then the second thing is that in our analysis, when we were roughly at this point in time, sorry, let me just erase that line. When we were over here in April, we thought we were close to a cycle top. And one of the reasons we kept harping on was this volume candle. It was so large on a daily basis that it shows that big money was distributing a lot of their profits into the strength of the market. So when we flip to the weekly, you actually put in a weekly topping tail, which we were saying, okay, this should hold. We actually loaded up on more shorts. We were a little bit too soon, but we always leave ourselves a little bit of room to add, and we've certainly added up here on a couple of occasions to our short positions. But this weekly topping tail was critical because it was so powerful on a volume basis as well, very, very strong. So the fact that that should have held, it was really in my thesis that this topping tail should hold, and we kept seeing day after day after day of strength, and it was getting closer and closer to kind of almost negating this topping tail. But now you need to confirm on a weekly basis, and that's why doing this long-term analysis of candle formations is very, very helpful, because often, you could be faked out over a day or two or three or four using daily chart analysis, versus if you use the week, it gives you that broader sense of data and definitely more of where the longer term, more powerful trend is. So the beautiful thing is that we had this massive reversal off of resistance, and you still, the awesome thing is that you closed below and into this weekly topping tail, which states that this topping tail is still in effect on a weekly basis. You've still put in a major top, and now it looks to be that you're putting in, I'm not going to call this a weekly topping tail. Some people may, because the wick is basically double the size of the body. But I'm going to say that it's not a weekly topping tail, but this one for sure is a nasty weekly reversal candle that holds weight. And the fact that on a weekly basis you closed below this candle just reinforces our overall thesis that natural gas has a long way to fall. And again, this volume bar was key. The fact that it took out, even on a daily basis, you had a substantial amount of shares exchanged, which shows you massive distribution was occurring. And that just shows you, and you have to be very, very careful when you start seeing those candles at the highs of charts when assets and commodities have had a massive run. So ultimately, what do I think is going to happen? Well, you're going to retrace back into this support zone here. Let me just get my line straight. So kind of where you hit already. Let me just erase this, and we'll keep that on. So you've had this initial sell-off. I think we're going to come down on the chart and hit support again. But I think there's a strong potential. Now this is going to factor in, we'll go over the fundamental analysis, but I think you could hit support, and then you could come up here to make kind of this right shoulder, and then all of a sudden you start your next leg down for natural gas. So that would be a beautiful topping formation. And one of the reasons why I'm thinking that there is a potential. Now, I'm not going to trade based off. This is just something that, could happen. It's a very simple pattern formation, but it's one that plays out in natural gas very, very frequently. So if we go to the previous cycle, look what happened. You have this beautiful M-top formation where you have this crash down, and then you have this basically this next level up. But again, you have this M-top formation, and we could potentially have that here as well forming. So natural gas moves in cycles, and the cycles are very similar, so we could easily have this head and shoulders on a bigger time frame, a bigger scale, which means more downside if it triggers. Now, you don't want to front run a pattern and trade off of something that hasn't happened, but there is a probability that this could repeat the similar topping cycles that nat gas usually does. And since we were, trading up for over a week here, almost 2 weeks, before you hit off support, this support level is still going to be a big level for natural gas. So just be aware of this potential right shoulder formation. If for some reason we do bounce and get back up to here, I'll be looking to short and reaccumulate a larger position in natural gas, because I certainly don't think the asset class has to be up at this price. And one of the reasons why, when we look into the fundamentals of natural gas, what lines up? So again, we hit resistance in natural gas, but why? And then what type of news follows, which is kind of more of the fundamental picture? Well, April of 2022 is basically saw the second largest monthly number of liquid natural gas cargoes delivered to European terminals. So the record amount of LNG was delivered in April, a total of 6.8 million tons to European terminals. So obviously the supply crunch for natural gas has been in Europe for, and many countries in Europe, Germany, Poland, Belarus, England, not so much England, but definitely its fair share. Mainly Germany, Italy, Belarus, Poland, and etc. and others, and UK, Spain, France. But the fact that for months now, when you think about how long the war has been going on, it's been going on for a few months now, and the fact that countries now like the States and others and Iran have now had chance to increase their production and really put together a logistical plan to try to offset the supply from Russia. Don't get me wrong, Russia's a big supply. That's why the price has just skyrocketed, because high prices cure demand. Higher prices mean less people are going to buy. Lower prices means more people are going to buy. So now that we've had several months under our belt, and we've started this delivery process of millions of tons of natural gas from the States to Europe, we had an additional 6.8 million tons delivered in April, which this is a building season. This is the cycle that people, think is this time is different. The cycles are very similar in nature throughout history. This is the building season. This is typically where inventories do build. This is typically where the months of supply over the next few months grow, and we do have these shocking amounts of deliveries. And it shouldn't have been a surprise to the market, but basically, like in previous videos, we've been referring to that we've been trading under the 5-year average by roughly 33%. Well, with these recent building of inventories, and that's what happens on these inventory building seasons, you often make up that lack of supply that you've been lacking over the drawdown periods. But now with this massive millions and millions of tons of delivery and building, last week's inventories also came in around 77 billion cubic feet. It was a shock to the market because it was so much higher than what was being expected. And it's now brought that average, that 5-year average of inventories trading below from minus 33% all the way up to minus 16.3%. So within 1 month basically of a massive delivery, we've basically chopped that deficit in half. So what will transpire over the next few months is typically what occurs in a natural gas building season. It's where we're going to continue to have these big amounts of deliveries being delivered to the countries that are short on natural gas. So over the next couple months, it stands to suggest that natural gas inventories will continue to build, that supply deficit over that 5-year crunch will basically start to dwindle. I don't know if we'll completely come into positive territory, but even if we chop that in half, it means natural gas prices will continue to fall as the reserves continue to build. So the technicals seem to be lining up. Now, there is tons of support on natural gas, any which way you think about it. There is tons of bullish bias, regarding natural gas. I think there's going to be a lot of latecomers to the party who are trying to hop on the extensive gains, because no question about it, I played natural gas on the bullish side, not all the way up here, but certainly down here, and there was tons of money to be made, and a lot of people made more money than me on the bullish side, so congratulations to them. But you can't deny an asset that moves in 2 years 450%, and this is the difference I want people to understand and differentiate between. Natural gas is a commodity. It's not a company. It's not this crypto meme stock that could essentially go to the moon. It's a commodity that is not rare. There's tons and tons of supply. It's more of just a logistical problem. And basically, the states have so much natural gas. It's just they're newer to the game of mining natural gas and shipping natural gas. But they're fast studies and they learn. And it's over time as the logistics improve with more and more experience, this type of energy crisis and security is less likely to happen. But there's always something on the horizon. I mean, if the sanctions aren't Iran from one decade to another, then it could be Russia. If it's not Russia, then it's Venezuela, and so on and so forth. There's always one sort of conflict that really starts to light a fire under these commodities and assets that are affected through sanctions or war or political, uncertainties. So again, beautiful to see. Weekly basis, topping tail still in effect. You have to admire the large amount of volume that was traded, the bearish engulfing, the fact that you're building supplies of natural gas. I think there's lots of money to be made on the downside as this asset falls. If the economy starts to slow even more, then this typically should also fall alongside with it. But good for you, for all who have been staying the course. We've been updating you, over the last few days. It's certainly been painful watching this climb. But I think it's going to profit us. I think it's going to be a profitable trade for all of us once we play it right. Now, depending on how we get into this level, if it's more of a straight shot in, I'm probably going to look to take some profits. But I'll leave that up to you. I'll still be issuing my trade alerts as I do it. But stay tuned. Natural gas can move fast. I'm still expecting some sort of a gap down, a potential gap down, maybe on the likes of Monday or Tuesday. We'll just have to wait and see. But the fact that you basically tagged $9, a little bit more, and you've closed all the way below $8 is an exceptional dollar move to the downside. That it just shows you how fast these things can move. You think natural gas rises fast? Well, energies are notorious for, yes, rising very, very quickly, but they fall that much faster. So we'll just have to be patient again, but I don't expect we'll have to be patient for too long once the bears take control of natural gas. Hopefully everybody has a good weekend. Happy trading.